Well, hello. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this review of our recent visit to Liberia. Um, there's been a lot of activity actually in between our last visit and this most recent visit, um, and so I needed to split it up really, so rather than put it all into one very long movie. So this one is part one. I want to say thank you. Give you some good news about what has been happening, a very quick country update, and then what do they need, or what they're looking for at the moment. After that, there'll be another one. I want to look at some highlights from our 2020 visits, the healings that we saw, the people that God touched, and then to start answering the question, what are we learning, which is all sort of related to experiencing the kingdom of God. After that, then part three, there's more highlights, more healings that we saw. I want to talk about some challenges that we had from the visit. Something that we have been discovering has real life on it is growth groups, and I want to talk about that. And then carrying on just a little bit more, what are we learning? This whole idea of feeding on Jesus for life. How do you do that? So let's get into it. Thank you so much, everybody that's been able to contribute, either in gifts or prayer or money. We got around £5,000 worth of money from the UK, which we converted. We had about 100 kilos of gifts from it. Laser printers, head torches, laptops, phones. They just lap this stuff up. They really love it. One of the ones they really want, or they really enjoy, is the head torches actually, but I mean they like them all, but and it was a bumper year for head torches, as it happens this year. You know, I can never tell what God is going to bring, but there was a lot of those and it was brilliant, so thank you. Part of that money that we got was turned into money for funds. There's an orphan fund. This is for pastors that have taken on children as their own children, kids that have been basically left on the streets, or other families can't afford the kids, or kids that lost their family and their parents from Ebola, that sort of thing. So we have this small fund that we use to help them, feed them and clothe them and put them through a little bit of education. A scholarship fund, that's for the 3 schools that we have with George, Robert and Joseph. That tends to be simply paying teachers' salaries, but it also in many cases as well goes to including other children whose parents can't afford even the small fees that these schools charge, and allows them to come in basically for free. Again, really valued highly. Rent Trap, there's a couple of families, Abraham and Victoria, Jonathan and Lydia. These are really lovely Christian folk who have sacrificed such a lot over the years. God has touched our heart in different ways for them, and we are, or they are, building their own house to get them out of the rent trap. So I can't tell you how pleased they were with some of the money that we've given them. I'll talk about them in a minute. There's also a fund for Chocolate City Women's Group. First time we did it this year. There's a group of women within the church who reach out to other women within the swamp community. They provide things like soap and oil and cooking oil and things like that, simple stuff, but things that some simply don't have, and they pray for them and welcome them and meet together. And then Wan Yen was one particular guy. He was really desperate to go and finish his education at college, so we found, or gave him, another semester's worth of funding so he could do that. The next slides are to do with what happened in between our visit in 2019 and our visit this year in 2020. One of the big things that was really exciting was this creation of this school in the bottom. You can see that didn't exist until the middle of last year. This is in a very rural area, no schools around, very little around actually, and the children would have had zero access to schooling without moving somewhere else. So it's been so exciting for them to see this. The man you can see there, George Zizi, he again, it's a tremendous sacrifice. He's left his wife and children back at Joseph's area, quite some way away, to become a head teacher in this new school. He was only seeing them probably once a month, if that, because it's expensive to travel to and fro. He's been doing a brilliant job. You could see that from the kids actually, as we were walking around. The kids were touching him and talking to him. He seems to be doing very well. He's now got a motorbike though, so he can travel to and fro more regularly. So that was good.
We have here more than 50, 75 persons here on the ground helping to do this work. You can see here, this is the dye dock. You can see the dye dock. Even beyond that, there's a...
Well, that was Patrick Dickey showing you around some of the people anyway doing the daubing of the mud onto the wooden frames that they've built. That was the first stage. Then, as you can see on the bottom right, they've now plastered over that mud, because if you don't do that, it really will fall to pieces. But they tell me that if you, even on such a simple structure, if you keep the plastering in good shape, it will last for 50 years, perhaps longer. They're now just about to start cementing the floors within the school, so it's going to be properly ready for the next year. Another school we have is with Robert. You can see in the top right, that's where they used to have school, which was actually in their church building, sort of bamboo sided, fairly open to the elements in their rainy season, which wasn't very pleasant. That's now gone anyway because the wind, they had a small hurricane and it all fell over. So Robert now though has this new building on the bottom. He's got something like 100 children coming to it now. Again, it's not like the government-based schools. He charges very little, relies on parents being able to find $50 a year or so, and much like George at Chocolate City, he takes children in who can't afford it, and gives them basically a free place. So that puts pressure on him, trying to find teacher salaries and money for books and all of that sort of stuff. But that school is going well, and it's a new school, as I say. This is inside the school a little bit, so you can see he's got chairs and blackboards and things like that. This still needs a bit of finishing off. In the top right you can see the nursery room, and that is the extent of the toys they have for the kids. They also need to get some mattresses for the late morning nap that they have. This is another school. This is Joseph's school now. This whole side here that you can see is new, last year. This is for grades 9 to 12, so you can serve more of the community around. And you'll see it's still in need of a few finishing touches, like a window and a door, but more particularly the ground. He's looking to cement the floor. You see a gecko coming up the left now. Yeah, so we're looking to cement the floor here, but it's being used already. The room you can see there in front of you at the bottom is to be the library, It's obviously, well, it's not obvious, it's going to be impossible to populate it with books because it's just too expensive. So the plan is to put some walls on it and a roof, of course, but to put some of the computers that we've been given over the last few years, and populate them with stories and various other bits and pieces that we can find to help the kids learn. Jonathan, he's been busy as well. This is Jonathan used to live in Soul Clinic. He's moved to a place called Palm Spring, where somehow he got some land, which is what you can see here, and he's built a temporary church structure. I love the idea of this church without walls. You know, everyone can see what's going on. It's brilliant. So that is a really good thing. That whole area, which I'll talk about later, is really ripe actually for or hungry for Jesus. We've travelled to the left along a pretty long road into 2 or 3 villages in that direction, and they've been so welcoming, and we've seen God do an awful lot of good stuff. So I think it's actually a really good environment, a good community for Jonathan to work in. Another thing that Jonathan's been up to is this whole thing of Rent Trap. So he's had some money from the UK, and on the bottom right-ish you can see he's got up to the foundations. He filled up the foundations and then stopped because he wanted to use the rest of the money to create a pharmacy for his wife. Going back nearly 9 years, Lydia, his wife, was supported through nursing at university, and she's had in her heart for years to have a pharmacy, to have a small clinic, and to also offer prayer and counselling. And finally they are starting to get somewhere with it. The idea now is that the bit of money that they had left over from the foundations they've used to create this on the bottom left, so that they can live in it basically as the first case. So they'll move out from where they're renting now, put a roof on it, and live there in the small rooms until they've, you know, found something, a bit more money, which they can then do because they're not paying rent, of course. So that's partly what Jonathan's been up to this year. Similarly, on the Rent Trap idea, this is Abraham and Victoria, again a lovely couple. When I first met them 9 years ago, they were both working in George's school almost for nothing. They were paid very little from the church offering. They have really served the community, the school, the children and God really well. So we've been working with him. So he's now got his foundations in. At the moment I understand he is filling the foundations with mud and dirt and bricks, and I think he's just about got enough to put up a one-room structure on those foundations. So that's where Abraham is, and they are I can't tell you how excited they are about this. Something else we get up to during the year, as many of you know, we have we support another 37 children and youth through university and school. It amounts to around about £5,000 we get from the UK, from friends, family, colleagues, and that goes straight into these schools. Most of it is for George, some of it is for Robert and Joseph as well, you know, as more people join us. And I think as a final thank you, as some of you will know, that we've been trying to support them in this lockdown period. We've given them £3,000, and they've converted that into 178 bags of rice and some oil, which we spread over, or they spread over 8 communities that we're serving in. Basically food for 200 plus people a week, and that's taken them to the end of the 5th week of their lockdown. At this point things have changed. The government have opened up slightly because they've only had 20 deaths, and they seem to be not spiking, or not, at least not increasing. So what that means is that the petty traders, the people that we've been serving, are able to go back to the small markets, earn a little bit of money, and therefore buy some food. So we're keeping a watching brief on that to see how that goes. Some other things we've done. We've always had the microfinance fund as well. So the guy you can see and his wife in the top right, James, he was one of the guys devastated by the bulldozers coming into Fendel and knocking everything down some years ago now. He was one that lost everything. He's now built himself a new house, and is starting to make a brick making business. So he used the microfinance. He borrowed a couple of $100 to set up, get some equipment, and set himself up there. And there's been, as you can see, a number of other projects that people have taken on. We've given some support for some mission trips to Guinea, Sierra Leone, various other, and internally as well, actually. And obviously we have frequent conversations, sort of probably every week. Either one or other of us is talking to them, praying with them, and talking about what they're up to, and encouraging each other. Actually, it's a brilliant brilliant conversations you have with them. Very encouraging for me, and I know for others, as it is for them. So here they are, same guys that you've met over the few years now. Brilliant people, high quality Christian men and women who serve God with all their hearts and love Him dearly, and sacrifice such a lot. It's increasing. There's a few people who have become slightly interested in what we're doing, with the vision that we have. Tamba, Sarah, they're up in Wiala. We've stayed with them a couple of times now and worked in their community, as you'll see later. Tamba is a great guy. I've spent some time with him, really enjoy his company. Thomas Carnley, become aware of him in the last couple of years. Actually, he is amazing. He gets into the villages and the towns, and he picks up youth that are drunk or on drugs or just lost, takes them back to his compound, which fortunately is quite large. I think he's got around about 200 youth that either stay with him or come there daily. He teaches them, he feeds them, and he teaches them also vocational skills, like cooking, and woodwork and metalwork, things like that. This year, I was talking to him this year, and he's just getting to a point where they're skilled enough to start making stuff that is that they're able to sell. Anthony and Marley, we've known for years. They're doing a fantastic job in a youth church, fairly well in Monrovia. Fully committed. They are absolutely convinced that the youth are the future of Liberia, which is true enough, and they're doing a really good job. And again, we bump into these people and we talk to them, we pray with them, and we work with them where we can. Who went this year? Steve and me. The picture on the top right is us being welcomed into Damamu village, this village out in the middle of nowhere. The guy with the bowl is the village elder, and there's various other chiefs and elders in that meeting, and they welcome us with cola nuts and rice and water. Long life, prosperity, and a full life. So we said thank you to that. He gave us a full welcome. We're able to do whatever we want. We told him we want to talk about Jesus. We want to talk to their people, and he said yes, go for it, do whatever you like, which is wonderful. So along with the 6 pastors in the 9 church communities that they represent, we work obviously with their local team, where all the time, in fact. So if we're going out, we will drag others with us. So Ben, for instance, in the middle bottom, he looks after the youth in Joseph's community. He's really keen Christian, really enjoyed walking around with him, and had a great time, as I'll show you later. Just above him there's another group of people that we have worked with for many years, actually, mostly from Soul Clinic but also from Palm Spring area. Again, these are all wonderful Christians who love God, who are just wanting to serve him better. And it is a privilege to work with them. There's a couple of slides here about for a country update. Because this is a movie, it means that you can pause it, so I won't go through this now. I'll just leave enough time for the each slide to be up, and if you want, you can pause it and have a read of what I've discovered that that is happening at the moment, just in case you find this interesting. So what do they need? Everything is, of course. They remain one of the poorest countries in the world, and it's not getting any better. They've only just got out of Ebola, and now they've got COVID. So it's, obviously prior to that there was all the wars. But they are a brilliant people, resilient, and love God and want to move on. So you can see here that one of the more common ways that we're supporting them is with the younger children through the schools that we're helping them with. More of a challenge is the younger people who want to get to college. Again, it's the next step up in terms of money, but really, I mean, for us it really isn't that much, 500 a year or so. But there's, Roosevelt, I know well. Every year he says, he comes to me, Andy, have you got someone to support me? And I have to keep saying sorry, keep on praying. Abraham in Fendel, he's done the bottom right with his wife Moretta. He'd love to go back to Bible school. Aaron, second from the top, he works with Joseph in his community, and he would love to finish grade school as well. Anyway, you can read all of those, and there are so many others that are looking for support. Then on top of that, of course, we have, or they have, the challenge of paying the teacher's salary in their schools. As I showed you, Robert's school needs a bit of finishing touches, as does Joseph's. Jonathan needs a final push to get a roof on his pharmacy/house. Well, we got Abraham. I think there is a bit of a final push there that we need to help him. George, he has a tough time. He has a lot of outgoings each month because he's got quite a big school, mission trips, and helping with a car and travel, because he's also supporting a whole community up in Loafer, where we've also spent a lot of time, and that's quite a way away, and travel isn't cheap. So George Zizi, again, George Zizi, he's the head teacher in the Damamu school, and his children are at Joseph's school at the moment. Joseph's taken them on for free, but they would appreciate a scholarship of some description to help them there. And Joseph was, he's got some land out the back which they're using for vegetables and growing, and for greens, which they sell in the market, which helps them to be generous to all the community around them. But someone is going to buy that soon, and so that will wipe out all of that land, so they won't be able to grow anything, basically. I mean, that's just a few of the things that we know about. Here's some kids. They are not going to school. They, if you're 4 years old or upwards, you'll be out doing this sort of smoking fish and then trying to sell it somewhere. Or I don't know quite what the one on the right's doing, but it's just to do with bugs. But you know, there is no hope naturally for them unless they get some help. Something slightly interesting, there's always difficulty. We're driving out of Damamu village, only gone half a mile or so, and we hit a dirty great root, and it broke the rear silencer off. So you know, it's fixable. It's always fixable, one way or the other. Robert somehow managed to find a belt and strap the silencer back onto the body of the car. You can see though these roads, it's hard to capture with a camera, but if you look underneath the car you can see quite a hefty drop. It was like that most of the way along. You know, when the rains come, and they gouge out mighty canyons, you know, along the road. So I will leave it here for this one. I want to pray to thank God for what He has done this last year. It's been amazing. So you can join me if you want. I'm just going to read out the words as a prayer. Father, thank you for the way you have connected our hearts with our Liberian friends and touched so many lives as a result. Thank you for the ongoing and mutual blessing from our relationship with Liberia. Thank you for connecting our hearts more with your compassion and good purposes as you work in both our countries. And thank you for enlarging the capacity of our hearts to experience more of your passion and power for your world. Amen. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it, and perhaps speak to some of you next time. Thank you.